Well, basically, how do we act in the world? Like, what do we do? I mean, if we're in a place where we're happy, do we feel an impetus to do something to change our situation? We don't, no? I mean, if we're happy, yeah? And if we're not happy, then we're pursuing happiness. So we're doing something to try to be happy, right? And of course, there's a lot of different ways that we try to be happy. I mean, our problems might be problems of security. We might not feel like we have enough pleasure in our life. We might not feel like we're a good enough person. Whatever. There's various ways, that we're constantly trying to get back to happiness, right? And all of these activities basically assume some kind of a limitation between ourselves and the happiness, like something that we need to resolve in order to be happy again. We have to get away from these desires. We have to remove the limitation. There's some problem. So everything we do in order to experience freedom from limitation. I don't have enough this. I'm not enough that. I need to be this, whatever. I need to have this experience. I need to have that experience. Somehow or another, something's missing. There's always some kind of problem. And so basically you have this kind of duality between a limitation and freedom, between limitation and happiness. And when we do the things that we do in order to be free and we achieve the thing that we're doing, we achieve the result for a brief period of time, we do feel happiness, right? So we assume right away that the thing that we acquired brought us the happiness. The thing that we acquired contained the happiness, yeah? That car, that partner, that money, that experience, or what have you. But now, I mean, I'm not a Vedanta teacher. I mean, I love Vedanta. Vedanta helped me sort out all of my doubts or whatever. But I'm not as academic. I'm not as immersed in the language and the Sanskrit. I'm not as immersed in the actual, structure of the teachings or whatever. So I mean, I talk a lot from that perspective of Vedanta, but I'm not a Vedanta teacher per se. Yeah. What it says is basically, we're mistaking the objects for the source of happiness because we're not really considering what's going on there with the happiness. That it's not the object, but it's the removal of the desire. It's the removal of the limitation that just allows the natural happiness that is your nature to rise up to the surface, right? There are a lot of really great ways of sort of exemplifying this teaching, and there's a story that Swami would tell. You have two men with some papers or whatever in a town, and they're in a big hurry, and they're running from opposite directions, and they not paying attention, and they crash into each other, spilling down their papers or whatever, and in a big panic, they're picking things up and like, what's your rush? What are you doing? Where are you going? He says, oh, I'm on my way to get married. I'm going to be late. I'm on my way to get married. And the other man says, oh, that's funny. I'm on my way to get divorced. They talk a little bit more and they discover it's the same woman. So somehow or another, this woman for one represents happiness and for the other represents, well, obviously the opposite of happiness. She used to be happiness, but she's not happiness anymore. Now it's happiness from somebody else. And so there's no guarantee that any object can actually bring you peace, right? Can bring you a sense of fullness or a sense of, so because we're experiencing happiness intermittently, temporarily, when we resolve a desire, what that tells us is that the happiness comes when the desire is set aside. So we can actually look at this whole notion of engaging the desire to begin with. I don't need to go down that path of that particular action in order to be happy. I can just dismiss the notion that I have that limitation. I mean, if my nature is happiness and it's going to rise the minute I just basically step back from trying to do things and from believing that I'm unhappy, then this shows me that this belief that I'm limited is really my only problem, you know.